Hello everyone and welcome back. Today I want to take a look at an older video of our friend D Marble back in his van down by the river days before he got that fancy green screen. If you recall, last year NASA reported there was a small hole in the ISS, and a very interesting investigation ensued trying to figure out how it got there. Well, Mr. Marble has issues with the physics of how that hole affects the ISS and its crew. Let's listen to Mr. Marble explain his opinion on this hole.
Check it out. So this is a story from Popular Mechanics. This is some nonsense that came out earlier a few days ago. It says an astronaut plugged the leak on the space station with his finger. The ISS astronauts later used tape and gauze to seal the hole more permanently. Wow. All right, and then there's some cartoons for you. Okay, it says one of the dangers of floating in a space station is that you really have to worry about leaks. After all, there's only a thin metal shell standing between you and the vacuum of space, and even a small hole can quickly prove disastrous. That's the reality that astronauts aboard the International Space Station awoke to yesterday, when it was discovered that a small leak in the station was causing the air pressure inside to drop. Fortunately, the hole was small enough that it wasn't life-threatening. Good. So they already kind of built in the story beforehand, or the excuse as to why this wasn't going to work out. Now, I find this to be a little bit ridiculous because, from what we've been told, let me see, there are some strong, serious issues in dealing with holes in that's like, now let's think about this. If you're on a submarine and suddenly there's a puncture in the hull, how well do you think it's going to work out for somebody to just plug the hole with the finger?
You may have noticed multiple times during his telling of this story that D displays absolute incredulity towards to what is being reported. And this disdain is based upon basic misunderstanding of how pressure works. So let's see if we can teach him a thing or two. Firstly, my friend, your analog with the submarine is highly inaccurate when comparing it to the ISS. At the surface of the ocean, you experience 1 atmosphere of pressure. That's 14.7 pounds per square inch PSI. I'm sticking imperial for this, but wait, I'm mixing the metrics. For every 10 meters you descend into the ocean, you increase your pressure by 1 atmosphere, another 14.7 pounds per square inch. At maximum depth, most submarines can only descend to about 240 meters. Under 240 meters of seawater, that submarine is experiencing almost 24 atmospheres of pressure, or 350 psi. That means that the difference between the submarine and the sea is 335 psi. That's 335 psi trying to get inside of that submarine. 335 pounds per square inch of water doing everything it can to get through the crevices of that submarine. Under that pressure, you are correct. A sailor would not be able to plug a hole with his finger. But how about we take a look at the space station? Inside the space station is also 1 atmosphere of pressure. Again, 14.7 pounds per square inch. The pressure outside the ISS? 0. Our pressure differential now is only 14.7 psi. This is nothing compared to the 350 experienced by the submarine. The differential between the space station and outside is minuscule. The differential between a submarine and the sea is gargantuan. Now, how about we find a better analog to compare? Let's look at tire pressure. Again, we start with the outside pressure of 1 atmosphere, 14.7 psi. Your average passenger car has a tire pressure of 32 to 35 psi. The pressure differential here is just over 1 atmosphere, similar to what's on the space station. And at that pressure, yes, you could plug the hole with your finger. 1 atmosphere of difference in pressure can be plugged by a finger. Try it on your tire, Mr. Marble. Strike one. But don't worry, he has more problems with this story, so let's listen some more.
You remember that movie Jason X, where they were out in space? They found Jason Voorhees' body, and then he came back to life, and then robot lady shot him to death, and then he had got blasted out of the ship some way or another. And then what happened? He punches a hole. You know, there's all kinds of stuff. It's like soon as he punched through that hole and then pulled his fist out, air is flying out into the infinite vacuum of space. So they had to deal with that. And then she gets sucked out into the hole, out into the vacuum of space through this little small hole. And she got shredded going through this screen, because now there was a screen on top of the hole, and she gets sucked out through that, and you see little entrails and all that. Terrible. But that was an example in the movies of what we're told would happen when somebody is subjected to the vacuum of space. Whenever there's a hole, there's the vacuum, there's the pressurized cabin, air's going to be rushing out, period. Point blank, period. There's no look, there's not going to be any sticking a finger in the hole, and that's just going to be cool. In theory, dude would have stuck his, from what we've been told in these movies, dude would have stuck his finger in the hole, and like his whole arm would have got sucked through, and his shoulder. I mean, it would have went crazy. But this in the movie, and anyway. But it's a dangerous situation dealing with the vacuum of space, as far as what we've been told in movies and all that. But apparently, in reality, here you can just stick your finger in there and everything's cool. Sounds like BS to me.
So poor Dee is now complaining that what NASA claims occurred on the space station doesn't match what Hollywood tells us? Dee, are you literally trying to debunk NASA by using movies? Time for another comparison, though. Here's a series of explosions that Hollywood claims are real of rocket-propelled grenades fired in combat. Those were some pretty nice destructive explosions, Dee. But how about we look at reality? using Mr. Marble's logic, those soldiers and civilians that were training and playing, and some in combat, they were fake. They're fabricated. They're not real. Those explosions in training and in combat can't be believed by Mr. Marble's rationale. Because Hollywood tells us what's real, and, if it's not matching that, it's fake. D, I'm going to give you a bit of advice that my mother gave me when I was a small boy. Think before you speak. Just take a minute and think about it. Is what I'm about to say utterly and completely ignorant of reality? Or am I making a valid point? So much of what you say, D, is the former and not the latter. Thanks for coming back, everybody. If you like my content, hit that little button down below to subscribe. Thumbs up is always appreciated. Comment if you think I got something wrong. And in the words of my anti-hero D Marble, stay flat.